The Friday Sports Riot on sportstownchicago.com.
What's up? This is the Friday Sports Riot. I'm Ryan Hoppe.
And I'm Ryan Stuprich.
To call the show, it's not too hard. It's 630-403-5200. That's 630-403-5200. I can be found on Twitter, Ryan, at Hoppe Radio 893. Where can you be found?
At Ryan Stuprich, Stuprich.
And we got a full show, jam-packed with a bunch of guests.
Definitely.
So, who is up first?
On the Illinois Center for Broadcasting hotline from 87.7 The Game, we have Connor Mcknight. Hey, Connor.
Hey, boys. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
And now, how has everything been at 87.7 The Game so far?
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. We're figuring out what we're doing and figuring out how to do it as best we can. It's been a really good adventure. Jimmy DeCastro has been great putting together a cast around the whole deal and making a really solid radio station. It's going to we're only going up from here.
Sounds very cool. Now, let's start with some March Madness talk. Out of all the teams in the tournament that are still left, what's the team that has surprised you the most so far?
Well, I mean, I guess it'd be really easy to say Dayton. So I'll say Dayton. It's just that kind of easy.
Yeah.
I didn't think they had that much. I figured that they definitely give Ohio State a scare in the first round. Ohio State was kind of a ball club that I thought just really struggled to find scoring, I guess. And as much as Aaron Kraft was kind of become a hero, a hometown hero kind of guy, the kid can't shoot. So just finding offense for them was really tough. Did not think that Dayton would go as far as they have. Although, if I could, maybe Florida's been a little surprising too, because everybody expected them to kind of power through this tournament as the number one seed overall. But watching Scotty Wilbekin kind of be empty in the first half last night was a little surprising as well. And
now, from here, how far can Dayton go?
I think they're done.
Yeah,
I think they're done. They've had a great run for it, and that's wonderful. But I don't know that they've got the firepower the rest of the field does at this point. I mean, Arizona struggled against San Diego State. Fisher's done a great job of doing what that team needs to do to figure out how to defend and how to stop some scoring. But Arizona's a monster. Wisconsin's hitting everything from distance. Frank Kaminsky's been a revelation over the last couple of weeks, which has been surprising to everybody. And Michigan State's got the best player in the tournament, I think. Adrian Payne is a nightmare matchup, and I really think he could be the best player in the tournament.
And now with teams like Creighton, Duke, Kansas, or even Syracuse going home early, what is your take on that, since those are all the big teams that people thought would make a run? What happened there?
Well, I guess for Kansas and Duke, I would say it was really surprising to see such renowned coaches look at a 2-3 zone like they've never seen it before. It's seventh grade. My basketball coach Pat Lawhorn looked at us and said, "All right, here's how you beat a 2-3 zone. You dribble in from the elbow, create some space, collapse the defense, and give it to the best player so he can make a decision." And Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker weren't the best player and they were the best players, and they weren't the ones who had the ball in their hand to make decisions. And I just didn't quite understand that. They're going to get all the reputation and all the one and dones that they want, though. So I don't know much is changing for those two guys.
And now moving on to some baseball, what is your take on the Cubs this year as a team overall? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for this team?
Yeah, there's plenty of light. There's a ridiculous amount of light at the end of the tunnel. It's just that nobody knows quite how long that tunnel is. With Mike Olt making the ball club, I was talking about this with a guy to a show with on Saturdays, Todd Hollingsworth, the other day. Mike Olt making this team changes a lot of things for them. And if he's able to be a productive or even major league average third baseman, the Cubs have so many prospects stacked at third base that they could use that kind of glut of prospects to trade for pitching, which is something that ball club needs real bad. They need as many high ceiling arms as they can get, and maybe one of those guys, whether it's Heimer Candelario or whether it's Mike Olt himself, brings you back a couple of guys they can throw the ball a little bit. That would help out Theo and Jet a lot in the rebuilding process.
And now, the types of seasons that Anthony Rizzo and Starlin Castro had last year, they weren't that good, but they showed a little bit of light. Do you think that they'll both have some bounce-back years, Anthony Rizzo and Starlin Castro?
It's interesting when you talk when you look at Rizzo's season. There's a lot more power in there hidden in what he did than you might think the first time around. I actually had to look at the numbers a couple different times. There's been a lot more doubles than he thought, a pretty decent number of home runs, and everybody looks at that average and goes, all right, what are we doing here with a first baseman, and is he going to be major league average first base, or is he going to be an elite level kind of guy? I mean, you guys know you play first base, and it's commanding a position defensively, so you got to hit the crap out of the ball. Mm-hmm. I expect Rizzo can keep that kind of power up. I think he can be more selective at the plate, and I think he can probably finish out to be what the Cubs expected. Well, maybe not what the Cubs expected him to be, but to finish out to be a major league average first baseman, or maybe even a little bit better. But I don't think he's a top tier kind of guy, and that's going to be fine, or at least could be fine, if Javier Baez and Jorge Soler and maybe a guy like Dan Vogelbach, although unlikely because he plays that same position as Rizzo, I think you can find power from other places. Those other Cubs teams, they had their power locked up at first and third and had none in the outfield where you traditionally see some, save Sammy Sosa, but even at the end of that, we know what happened there.
Yeah.
You can build it if you've got power in different places. And, look at look what the Rays are doing with James Loney. They're a team that's being rebuilt with no budget, kind of the way that the Cubs are trying to go about it. And yet they've had a rotating cast of first basemen, none of which have been major league average. Carlos Pena hit for power, but nothing else. James Loney is an average slap hitter kind of thing that never really pulled his power together in L.A. You can do it as long as you've got pieces and power around the other places in the diamond.
And now, how good of a year will Rick Renteria have for the Cubs?
It's an interesting question. I don't know how they do it, they're going to evaluate him, or how they're going to want to evaluate him. We heard for 2 seasons that Dale Swaim's reputation, or at least he wasn't going to be evaluated. Dale wasn't on wins and losses, and yet 2 years into the thing, you'd lost 100 and some games, 150 some games, and he got fired. So if you can believe why they fired him was they had a shot at Joe Girardi, then okay, we understand that. For Rick Renteria, I don't know the wins and losses are going to necessarily, for the first 2 seasons, or maybe even 3, be what defines his future. I think it's going to be what he does, or what's done with the kids he's given when he's given them. If Javi Baez comes up after the All-Star break or shortly thereafter, and Chris Bryant falls up later, he's going to have a hell of a lot more talent than he'll have to start the season. So I think that's kind of going to be they brought him in because of his ability to connect to younger players, and I think he's going to be evaluated first and foremost on that.
We're talking with Connor Mcknight on 87.7 The Game. He's from 87.7 The Game. And now let's move on to the White Sox. What type of season do you think they're going to have? Do you think they could compete in this Central Division, or is Detroit going to go and run away with this Central?
I think they'll run away and hide with it, and that's not going to be necessarily Rick Hahn's problem. I think he's put together a team that's going to be well, I'll tell you what, after that last trade was made, after Addison Reed got flipped for Matt Davidson, a friend of mine asked me whether or not, a friend of mine, Dennis, asked me what I thought of the moves. And I said I like the lineup, but I like the lineup a little more for 2015 than I do for 2014. Guys like Eaton and Davidson and Avi Garcia and Jose Abreu all have pretty good futures, I think, but they're going to be doing a lot of learning at the major league level, and that's what Rick Hahn wants. He wants guys, and that's what the White Sox want. They want guys who are going to be able to learn or ready to learn at the major league level. So you're going to see some bumps in the road, I think, but for guys like Eaton and Garcia and Abreu and Davidson, hopefully, you're going to see a lot of flashes of, okay, here's something we can work with, or okay, here's some core players. And they've got a pitching staff and a glut of, well, I shouldn't say glut, but they got enough minor league arms to bring up and be Don Cooper's toys that at this point we just have to trust in Don Cooper. It's kind of shocking how good the White Sox are at finding pitching and keeping pitching healthy. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree with that. And now, speaking of the Tigers and the AL Central, Miguel Cabrera had just signed that huge contract. Now, what are some of your thoughts on that contract that he signed?
It's just so much money. I mean, if Miguel Cabrera makes $300 million, then Mike Trout is worth $500 million. I mean, we've come to that level of nonsense in Major League Baseball, and just to extend a guy now, I think maybe the most preposterous thing about the deal is to extend him now when you've got 2 years of control left. I think it was like $44 million the Tigers owed Cabrera over the next 2 seasons, and that would be his age 31, age 32 seasons. They gave up all their leverage, every single piece of leverage they gave up, and just instead they gave him money. Players in this league don't last until 35, and they're certainly not worth that kind of money that late. They had an opportunity to let him be the next Albert Pujols contract or the next Josh Hamilton contract on some other team, and instead they assumed that risk. Mickey's going to win probably another Triple Crown if he wants to. Mickey's going to win a batting title or a home run title when he wants to, too, and probably in the next 3 seasons, but that's not what they're going to pay him for. They're going to pay him for the last 3 seasons, which he's already completed, and they're going to pay him for 3 seasons that he might not play when he's, 37, 38, 39. Baseball keeps doing this to themselves, and nobody seems to care. The owners, rather, don't seem to care because they get so much money on TV contracts.
And now, what is your take on Miggy overall? Could he be an all-time great when it's all said and done?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He could end his career as the best right-handed hitter in baseball to have ever played. I mean, you could take that from Manny. He could, at least in my lifetime, Manny Ramirez is the best right-handed hitter I've ever seen. Absolutely, he could be an all-time great. But when you're looking at how much you're paying him versus how much you can fill out the rest of the roster, you've got to look at opportunity cost at that point. What else is Miggy costing you at that $31 million price tag that you need to fill out a baseball club? Miggy can't pitch. I mean, he's not going to go out there and pitch every 5th day too. He's not Babe Ruth, but he could hit like him, and we could be looking at one of the best right-handed hitters to ever play.
Now, before we let you go, where can people find your work online and on the radio?
Yeah, well, you can find us on 87.7 on the FM dial. I'm on every night, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 10. You can catch me tomorrow morning as well, and every Saturday throughout the baseball season, I'm on with Todd Hollidsworth on 87.7. We do the baseball show there called the Ball Yard Show from 8 to 11 on Saturday morning. It's an awesome show. Todd knows everything there is to know about this game, and knows quite a bit of people in the game, too. So we're trying to bring a great deal of inside information to the deal, and a lot of good guests and a lot of good conversation about baseball. So we'll be on tomorrow morning from 8 to 11 tomorrow, talking about the NL and AL Central. We're going through previews for each division, so tomorrow we're bringing it home with the AL and AL Central. Do a lot of Cubs, a lot of White Sox talk.
Cool. Thanks for coming on the show, Connor Mcknight. We'd love to have you on again sometime.
You got it, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
And that was Connor Mcknight of 87.7 The Game as he joined us on the Illinois Center for Broadcasting hotline on the Friday Sports Riot, Ryan.
The Friday Sports Riot on sportstownchicago.com.